Hey everybody, today we're going to evaluate inverse functions. So let's talk about what an inverse function is. Usually, right, we have an input. Usually we have an input we put into a function like f, and then we get an output, right? So an inverse would be when we take the output and put it into a function, and then we get out the input. We get the original thing back, okay? So let's take a look at how this matches up. Like when I say, like this point right here, right? This is, so this graph, this is -8, +1, right? So what that means is my input was -8 and my output was 1. Down here, my input was +3, my output was -4. What an inverse function does, it says take your output, make it an input, and then my original input will be what I get back. So the inverse of -8, 1 is 1, -8. The inverse of 3, -4 is -4, 3. So I'm just going to plot these points here. So 1, -8 is here, and -4, 3, -4, 3 is here. And I'm done with the problem. Now, not always that easy, but, we'll see. All right, so this is my original function, right? Y equals f of x. So, like, my input here of -6 gives me an output of -5. Input's my x, output's my y. This says find f inverse of -3. Find f inverse of -3. Now, what is -3? -3 was originally an output. Outputs are my y's. So -3 is down here. That means my original input was -5. So my output of my inverse function is -5. This thing should be -5. Another one. What's the value of h inverse of -4? Again, this was my original output, which means it was a y. So I am looking at when y is -4 down here. My answer will be my original input, which is an x. And my x was -2. Alright, so this first one's a little bit tricky. So let's do the second one first then. So this says find f of -7. So we'll go to -7 and we get 12. Then it says find f of -12. So I will go to -12 for my x, and my y is my answer. So this one's 5. Now this next part might be a little confusing, but here's the deal. F inverse of f. F inverse and f basically cancel each other out. So my answer is just going to be 3.14. Let's take a look at it one more time. F inverse and f, what do these do? They cancel each other out. So I'm left with 93. F of 7, it says first find f of 7. So f of 7, so my input is 7. My output is -6. So f of 7 equals -6. Now I need to find f of -6. So again, -6 is my input. So my answer should be -15. All right, here's one that's a little bit different. Find f inverse of f of 6.022. Again, f inverses and f's cancel each other out, leaves me with 6.022. This says f inverse of -10 plus f of -6. So f inverse, this means this is my output. So I'm looking down here first. So f inverse of -10, f inverse of -10 is actually going to be -6. So f inverse of -10 is -6. Then it says find f of -6. So f of -6 is -10. And then add them together. -6 plus -10 is -16. hopefully it's pretty easy. Let me know if you need any help. Talk to you later.